What's up, guys? Truck Fan Productions and Aviation here. Back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about different plane variants. And what that means, we're going to be just going through each plane and each variant of said aircraft and talk about some of the cooler ones and which ones are my least favorite and which ones are my favorites. So yeah, this is gonna be a pretty fun video. So yeah, we got 3 planes currently on a slideshow here to review. We got Boeing 747 variants on the left. The top part we got 737 variants. And then on the bottom right we got Embraer, E-Jets, and ERJ-145 Family. So yeah. This is going to be pretty cool, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now, over here, it says B747 Variants. The first one says, this is the Boeing 747-100. That's probably one of the first ones, I think it was. First flight, 1969, 168 aircraft were built. The 747-200 right here, which is the second variation of the 747 family. First flight, 1972. 393 aircraft were built. The Boeing 747 SP, which is more of a fancier, I think, style one. First flight, 1976. 45 aircraft were built. Boeing 747-300. First flight, 1982. 81 aircraft were built. B747-400, which is this is the original. Well, these are the newer ones now, kind of. The 400s are the ones that we see nowadays. First flight, 1989. 694 aircraft were built. As of 2019, 339 B744s are flying. Okay. B747-8I. First flight, 2012. 150 aircraft were built. Almost every plane is still flying. That's true. So my favorite ones, I'm going to go with the SP, the 747-400, the AI, and then the we'll go with the first variant, the 100. Those are the ones I like. We already did the SP, so yeah. So very cool that 747s have different variants. So yeah. Also, military, they have military 747s as well. Like the Air Force One, that's a VC-125. But still, it's a 747. But yeah, that's what it is. I've seen the 400s, the 747 400s. I've seen the Atlas Air. Atlas Air does operate a lot of those 400 variants. The AI, probably it's going to be Cathay Pacific. I think they operate those. The SP is more of a occasion, I guess. I don't know what they use the Boeing 747 SP for. I don't know, but yeah. You don't really see the 100s anymore, or the 200s. You don't see those variants anymore. You see the 400s and the -8s. That's all you see nowadays. Sometimes 300s, but not all the time. The SP, not all the time. But yeah, the very first variant of the 747 you don't see nowadays because we got the newer ones, which are the 400s and the -8s. So yeah, like I just said. Alright, moving on. Now we're going to go on to Boeing 737 variants. Alright, the first one, 737-100, 737-200, 737-300, 737-400, 737-500, 737-600, 737-700, 737-800, 737-900ER, 737 MAX 7, 737 MAX 8, 737 MAX 9, 737 MAX 10, 737 MAX 200. Okay, now the very first column, those are the very first 737s. There's a couple out of that row there. It's only six 737 planes in this left row here. It's only 6 out of, I think, 12, I'm going to say. Let me count. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's only 6 out of 14 of the very first 737 ever, I think, flown, I think, or built, or whatever it may be. So, 6 out of 14 of the very original 737. Now, let's go over the 737-100. The 737-100 is one of the older variants of the 737s that Boeing operates, of course. The 100 is probably one of the first ones to be flown. And they're pretty nice. The engines could be nicer. I mean, if you can see right here, the engine looks so crazy. It's long. It's one of the longer engines, okay? You know? Not very much to talk about for the 100, but yeah. It's a very rare plane. Rare 737 variant, of course. The 100 was probably one of the first ones. Alright, moving on. The 737-200. Now the 200 is even older, I think. Well, the 100 might be older. The 100 might be older. The 737-100. The 737-200 is still old, but not as old. But kind of, sort of. Because they, look at it, they have the same engine, so they're still technically older. Anyways, the 737-200, they don't operate a lot of those anymore. Because that was the very original, I think, 737. So yeah. And they're pretty classic, too. Yeah. Very classic style looking ones. The 100, the 200. Now we're moving on to the 300. Alright. Now, the 737-300 is a different variant. It's newer style, as you can see. If you can see, the engine shape does change a tiny bit. Of course, I meant to say tad bit. The engine shape changes a tad bit because it looked longer for the 100 and 200 variant, but now look at the 300. It's shorter. See? Now, the 300 is a newer one. It's a more updated one because the 300 is a little bit different. It's not the same as the 100 or the 200, right? The 300 looks a little bit different because of the shape. It all comes with shape and size. The size, it's a medium size, right? The 100's smaller. The 200's still small. The 300 gets a little more bigger or longer, as you can see. As you can see right there, the 300 is longer because it's a newer variant. It's a different style of the 737. I've never actually flown in a plane before. I'd love to fly these 737s, and I would love to fly a 747. Yeah. That'd be so cool. Next, the 737-400. Okay, now the 400 is even newer, but still looks the exact same. But it's getting more larger as we go on into the 737 fleet. As you can see. The 400 is even longer and bigger because it's just getting wider as we go on the different ones. The 400, the engines still look the same, nothing really much, except for the nose does change a little bit, kind of. And the tail, they look the exact same. It's got some nice colors. This is just they're all like this, but yeah. Anyways, not much to say about the 400. They kind of look the same. The 400 does, and the 300, and the 200, and the 100. They all look the same. The 500. Alright, now the 500. It gets shorter again. So the 500 is shorter, right? The 500. Right here. The 737-500. It gets shorter again. The tail gets short. And the wings actually look the exact same thing. They look like the exact same. But the 100 has a shorter wing. So yeah. The 500 is a different style. You know? It's smaller compared to the rest of them. I think they operated, I know Southwest did use the 500s. Yep, they did. The 737 was operated by Southwest. I think California 1 livery was actually one of the first livery. I think the livery was California 1. It was a Southwest 737-500. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool, you know? Yeah. Next one. Alright. The 737-600. Alright, now it starts to change a little bit. The 600 is the same size of the 500. And the engines start to get bigger and bigger, as you can see. So, yeah, there's the 600. The 600, the 737-600's wing is larger compared to the 500 variant. Tail-wise, they look exactly the same, except for one. The 100 right there has a little shorter tail there. But yeah, there's that one. There's not much difference between the 4 up there, or the 6, whatever it is. Alright, now, the 700 is a newer variant. The 700 is new. It's a newer style. A lot of airlines operate the 700. Southwest, right? Southwest does operate the Boeing 737-700. The 700, as you can see, if you look at the wingtip, it comes up. But the others didn't before because those are the older variants of the 737. The 700, though, the wingtip right there, it comes up. It's a sharklet. That's what it's called. Notice the rest of the older fleet of the 737 didn't have any sharklets at the very end of the tip of the wing. But now the 700 did have a sharklet because they added it. It's a newer model, newer variant of a plane. So yeah, they're pretty cool. In the tail there starts getting bigger. Very cool. The 737-800. Okay, now that's a longer one. Look how big it is. Alright, so that's that's like a newer one. Like, I know Sun Country Airlines. Sun Country Airlines operates the 737-800. Delta Airlines does operate that, but they do operate the 900s, which we'll talk about in a minute. I kind of spoiled it, but it's okay. I'll say it again. 737-800 right there. Sun Country operates it. American Airlines. Lufthansa, I think, operates the 737-800 and a few other airlines. There are so many other airlines, like Lufthansa down here, right? Look at this. The 800 right here. Look at the Dash 8. That's the new Lufthansa livery. This is the old Lufthansa livery on the 200 here. That's the very first Lufthansa livery. Now we've got this newer one. See? It was a darker white or silver with a little bit of gray and blue. Now it's just blue or blackish with just a white. Because that's the newer color scheme for Lufthansa. But that's the old retro livery for Lufthansa. But yeah, the 800's pretty nice. Pretty sharp looking. Now the next plane is the 737-900ER. Okay. So the 900ER, it's a much larger and long and big variant of the 737 lineup. The 900ER, like I said, Delta Airlines operates the 900ERs. They operate a large variety of them. I know they operate. There's a lot of them, but yeah, I don't need to go over every airline, but yeah, that's okay. The 900ER is pretty long. It's got sharklets and everything. The engine gets bigger on it. The nose starts to change by. Well, you know what? The whole nose here on this left side here, every single nose right there, it looks the exact same. Even the 900 has it, the 800 has it. They all look the same. So yeah, that's the 900. Alright, the 737 MAX 7. That's one of the newer ones. The MAX 7, United Airlines operates a lot of MAX 7s. Especially their special liveries, which are like the Star Alliance livery. You know, I've seen a Boeing 767 today, and it was a Star Alliance, and it was a 767. Yep, it was really cool to see. Yeah, and I saw an Embraer E195, which is cool. We'll get into that soon. But yeah, that's it for the MAX 7. The MAX 8. Alright, the MAX 8 is the one I've been waiting for. Alright, the MAX 8. They operate different airlines like Southwest. Southwest uses a lot of MAX 8s. I think there's probably a couple hundred of Southwest MAX 8s. Because I know I caught the Canyon Blue livery of Southwest, and it was a MAX 8 or MAX 9, whatever it was. Pretty sure it was a MAX 8, but yeah. Anyways, it still gets bigger and bigger as we go on. Alright, next. The 737 MAX 9. The MAX 9 is even larger. The tails look kind of the same. Like I said, the 100's smaller. So, we always want to look at the 100 to judge on the other ones here. So yeah, there you go. The MAX 9's pretty huge, actually. It's one of my favorites. I like the MAX 9. It's pretty nice. It's pretty sharp, too, because it's super long. I was pointing out the MAX 10. Okay, hold on. The MAX 9 is long, but not as long as the next plane we're going to look at here in a second. But yeah, and it's got a lot of windows on there, that's for sure. Notice the 100 and the 100 didn't have as many windows as the rest of them do now. Alright, the MAX 9. Yeah, wait. No, we already covered the MAX 9, alright. The MAX 10. Alright, now the MAX 10. The engine's are pretty nice. I think they're General Electric engines or something. Yeah, something like that. Or CFM 56 engines. So yeah. The Max 10, there's a lot more windows on there because there's a lot of passengers on that plane, I'm sure. And they do fly the Max 10. Oh yeah. The Max 10 is actually pretty nice. Yeah. The Max 10 is pretty wide, I'm not gonna lie. And it's got sharklet and everything. So yeah. The 737 MAX 200. Alright. I'm very familiar with this plane. The MAX 200. Okay. So I know a couple of airlines that, or I know one airline I think that operates it. Allegiant Air. Allegiant Air operates the 737 MAX. It's a MAX 8-200. That's what it is. So Allegiant Air operates the Boeing 737 -8-200 MAX, which is one of the cooler ones. It's one of the bigger ones too. Always want to look at them. See? Look how big it is. But to be honest with you, they look the same. They look exactly the same, kind of. The Max 7's smaller and whatnot. But the Max 10 and the Max 200 here, they're the exact same size. Yeah. Very cool for that one. Alright. Now we're moving on to E-Jets and ERJ 145 family. Alright, we're now going to talk about three. We got three on each side. Alright, the E-Jets, which is the Embraer E-Jets here. The E series. Alright, the Embraer E170. I have never seen a 170. No, I haven't. I actually have. I've seen the 170 before. They're pretty sharp. I see a lot of them nowadays. American Eagle, United Express, Alaska Airlines operates a lot of Embraer. They use the 175s a lot of times, of course, and the 170s. The 170s are older. But yeah. Oh, capacity, 70 to 80 seats. Range 2,100 nautical miles. And 3,900 kilometers. Wow, that's crazy. Alright. The Embraer E175, capacity 78 to 88 seats. Range 2,000 nautical miles, 3,700 kilometers. That one's pretty crazy. We're just going to read the capacity and the range. Capacity for the 190 would be 98 to 114 seats. Range 2,400 nautical miles, 4,500 kilometers. And then the ERJ 135, capacity 37 seats, range 1,750 nautical miles, 3,250 kilometers. The 140, capacity 44 seats, range 1,650 nautical miles, 3,050 kilometers. ERJ 145, capacity 50 seats, range 1,550 nautical miles, 2,900 kilometers. That is crazy. I'm sure that these planes here, I'm sure the Dash 8 and the 400 here could probably beat the ERJ and the E-Jet family by a ton. Because the range, it's not a lot. It's only 1,000 miles. 1,000 nautical mile range. It's only 1,000 mile range for the ERJ and the E-Jet family. Notice it's all 2,000 miles for the Embraer 170, 175, and 190. Notice when the ERJ 145 family are 1,000 range, or 1,000 mile range, and the others are 2,000. That's crazy. I'm sure the 747s and the 737s could beat the ERJ and the E-Jet family. That's pretty crazy. All right, now the next series we're going to do on our next video will be talking about CRJ family. But that's not today. That's in the next episode, the next video. I'll see you all out there on the rails. Take care, everybody.